The Elder Scrolls II Daggerfall is the definitive RPG game in the Elder Scrolls series, and is quite frankly one of the most underrated games, which is why this game deserves an iceberg about it. And also special thanks to Auru256 for making this iceberg chart. This video wouldn't be possible without him. Like other iceberg theory videos, we will have a health bar as we go over these theories from being true, likely, plausible, unlikely, and being false. Now with that out the way, let's explore the iceberg of Daggerfall. Daggerfall Unity. Daggerfall Unity is an open-source project to recreate Daggerfall in the Unity game engine, made by a group of dedicated volunteers. Its goal is to modernize and improve the original Daggerfall game by making it compatible with modern systems, improving graphics and performance, and fixing bugs. The project aims to faithfully recreate the original Daggerfall experience while also providing enhancements and modding capabilities for players. Races. There are 8 races in Daggerfall, each of which hails from a particular province within Tamriel. There are actually 9 provinces in Tamriel. However, no specific race is associated with the Imperial province. The Imperial race was not conceived until Redguard. In addition, orcs were not considered to be a proper race until Morrowind. In Daggerfall, they are treated as humanoid creatures. Multiple endings. Each of the endings in Daggerfall differ depending on who the player gives the mantella to. The writers of Daggerfall had to be creative when writing the sequel. It is revealed in books in the sequel Morrowind that at the end of Daggerfall, an event known as the Warp of the West, or the Dragon Break, which was an event that caused a disruption in time where all the endings occurred simultaneously, which was an attempt of the writers to make all the endings canon. Daedra Summoning. There are 3 ways to summon a Daedric Prince in Daggerfall by using the Daedra Summoning service of the Mages Guild, temples, and witch covens. The costs for summoning a Daedric Prince are quite high, and are determined solely by your reputation with the Summoner's faction. The base price for summoning a Daedric Prince is 200,000 gold. Dragons. Technically, dragons can be found in Daggerfall. There are dragonlings that can be found, but they barely count as a true dragon. The closest thing that can be considered a dragon would be the Daedric Prince Periite. Jular Retrospective. This is referring to a well-known video made by Jular, which is a complete retrospective on Daggerfall with the Unity version. And it's actually hands down the best video on Daggerfall to date. I'll link the video in the description. 8 Divines. There are 8 divines, each of them having their own temples in the Iliac Bay, each devoted to one of the 8 divines of Tamriel. In the lore, each temple is associated with a Templar knightly order, considered to be the temple's military arm, although they are not actually present in the game. If you have played the newer games in the series, you may be wondering what happened to Talos, the 9th divine. Well, Talos doesn't become a divine until the 3rd installment of Morrowind. Non-random quests. Anything that's not the main quest is procedurally generated using templates. Quests of the same template will have generally the same structure. Go to X, get Y, or go to X, kill Y, or stay here, kill 5 of Y, and so on. The specifics like location, enemies, items, etc. are random. No moons. The absence of moons is an interesting aspect of the game world. Unlike other games in the Elder Scrolls series, such as Morrowind, Oblivion, and Skyrim, where the moons Massa and Secunda are present in the sky, Daggerfall does not feature any visible moons. But the moons can be found in the death sequence. Reflective starting items. Reflective starting items refers to the character questions you answer during character creation, where your responses directly influence the type of gear and items you begin the game with. Box art discrepancies. This refers to differences or variations between the artwork displayed on the game's box cover and the actual content or visual representation within the game itself. These discrepancies involve the portrayal of the game's protagonist and then changing away from the blue cover to the black cover that itself had a variant, where the Underking had full hair and one where his hair was more wretched, and the last one then getting a new border and a new skinless design for the Underking. The Underking. The Underking is a significant character in the lore of the Elder Scrolls series and in Daggerfall. The Underking, whose true name is Zurin Arctus, was a powerful figure in the late Second Era of the Elder Scrolls timeline. He was originally a battle mage, and the Imperial battle mage to Emperor Tiber Septim, who is known as Talos. Zurin Arctus played a crucial role in Tiber Septim's conquest of Tamriel and the establishment of the Septim Empire. And frankly, the Underking has too much lore that would make this video hours long, but essentially in a nutshell, some tragic event would occur that would turn Zurin Arctus into the Underking we have today. Vengeance. Vengeance is a renowned phrase that is yelled through the night by the ghost of Lysandus and his minions of wraiths that comes to attack the player. It has also become a well-known meme in the Elder Scrolls community. Summoning Day Hints. Summoning Day Hints refers to Daedra summoning and how most of the Daedric princes can be summoned depending on the weather and the day of the year you are currently on. Witch Covens. Witch covens are groups or organizations composed of witches. Witch covens can be found throughout the game world of Daggerfall. They often dwell in remote locations such as hidden caves, abandoned ruins, or secluded areas. Joining or interacting with a coven can provide the player with access to unique quests, spells, and items. While witch covens are not directly tied to the main quest line in Daggerfall, they serve as optional content for the player. Portals. While in a dungeon you may find a red brick wall which is actually a portal that works as a teleporter, sometimes walking into one will teleport you to another spot in the dungeon. Most of the ones that are found in random dungeons don't actually do anything, but some of the ones found in main quest locations do work properly. Unnatural storm. Unnatural storm refers to a specific weather storm that happened before the events of the game take place, where the Daggerfall player character is traveling from Cyrodiil to High Rock, and due to the storm the player ends up shipwrecked, which helps explains how the game starts in a dungeon. Unknown ambience. Unknown ambience likely refers to atmospheric or environmental elements within the game that are not specifically identified or categorized. It could signify certain sounds or atmospheric details that are not explicitly explained or labeled in the game soundtrack. Kosh Hall. The ruins of Kosh Hall is a dungeon on the island of Cybiades. Cybiades is an uninhabited island region off the northern coast of Sentinel in the province of Hammerfell. The only known location on Cybiades is the ruins of Kosh Hall, which now serves as a human stronghold, although uninhabited, which is really just a ghost town in the game. High Rock Seacoast. The High Rock Seacoast is the region in the upper left corner of the Overland map. It is the place where any ships you own are anchored after being bought. Every time you enter your ship via the transportation menu, you will be sent to this area. You can actually travel from this location to any other location on the map, both in fast travel mode and normally. However, it is not possible to travel to this location by any other means than by entering the ship, since your position, which is displayed on the Overland map, is too inaccurate to be of real use for orientation. Involuntary transformation. When you contract the disease lycanthropy, during every full moon, you will automatically change into a werewolf and be unable to change back for the duration of the day. However, you will not change into a werewolf during fast travel. You will not change back automatically on the next day. You must use the shapeshift spell in your spellbook to return to your humanoid form. The Daggerfall Chronicles. The Daggerfall Chronicles is the official strategy guide for The Elder Scrolls II, written by Ronald Warto and published by Bethesda Softworks in 1996. The guide contains hints, walkthroughs, and dungeon maps, as well as a unique overview of the game's lore. Mournhold. Mournhold was the precursor to Daggerfall and was the original sequel to The Elder Scrolls I Arena. Mournhold was to be set in Morrowind, initially starting as an expansion pack and later becoming a sequel game instead. However, the setting of the game was eventually switched to Daggerfall and the Iliac Bay. But this idea would come back later in the future to becoming the third installment known today as Morrowind. Inconsistently consistent world generation. This refers to the procedural generation system used to create the game's vast and expansive world. This also reflects the fact that while the world generation system follows certain rules and patterns to create the game world, it also introduces variations and inconsistencies to ensure a sense of unpredictability and exploration for the player, which is something Bethesda would drop later on for more handcrafted worlds in the sequel games of the series. Skakmat. In the lore, Skakmat is Nulfaga's dragon familiar. It reported to her on the happenings in Daggerfall when she retired to Castle Shedungant during the War of Bethany. Skakmat does not actually appear in the game, existing only as one of its numerous political factions. Skakmat's 3D model and textures can only be found in the game files. It seems that Skakmat was supposed to appear in the game somewhere in development, but was then cut out later in the development cycle. First Elder Scrolls book. The first Elder Scrolls book is a reference to the first book in the series about the animal god. This book was primarily utilized to address a particular problem encountered in Arena. Sea Serpent. Sea Serpent refers to a peculiar creature depicted on the fast travel map, specifically located southeast of Bethany. This serpent stands out as it doesn't resemble any in-game creatures, leading to various theories suggesting that it was a deliberate inclusion by developers, possibly hinting at future Sea Elf or Druch lore. In The Elder Scrolls Online, the sea serpent emerges as a prominent symbol for the Maormer and bears a striking resemblance to this enigmatic serpent. Blue Eyes. Blue Eyes revolves around the inconsistencies surrounding Berenzia's portrayal. While in the game, she visually appears as a Breton with blue eyes, there are contradictory indications found both in the game files and within the lore that label her as a dark elf. This discrepancy was probably a mistake made by the devs during the development of the game. The Hated Hosts. The Hated Hosts refers to the Host of the Horn, which is a knightly order located in the barony of Lainlin. But this knightly order are more bullies than knights. A lot of their time is spent intimidating peasants for tax money and trading jokes, according to the Daggerfall Chronicles, which is something that has become a bit of a meme between the community. Black and white cows. Black and white cows can't be found in Daggerfall, and the only type of cows that can be found are the brown ones that we see in-game. The only exception of black and white cows we have are paintings in Daggerfall. Orcish claims. Orcish claims likely refers to the territorial claims of the regions, particularly around the southern half of the Rothgarian Mountains. Orcs are not a playable race in the game, and they are often shunned and overlooked by both mer and men alike in the Iliac Bay. As the other races assert their dominance and vie for power, the orcs find themselves on the fringes of society, existing in a state of relative obscurity, denied the recognition and acceptance afforded to the more commonly known races. Lysander's enemy. Lysandas's enemy refers to Lord Woodbourne, who is an influential Breton noble of Wayrest. During the War of Bethany, Woodbourne was one of Wayrest's advisors to King Lysandas, and was the man that killed and betrayed King Lysandas. Lord Woodbourne can be found in the game during the quest called Lysandas's Revenge, where the player tracks down and kills Woodbourne. Void Rangers. Void Rangers is a reference to a very old strategy used by OG Daggerfall players in the past. Basically, clipping out of bounds and freely levitating in the void beyond the dungeon walls, so the player doesn't have to roam fruitlessly in the maze in search of a way to the quest item spawn. The Bride. The Bride is an early piece of concept art intended for the planned third game in the series. This artwork portrays the bride. Many fans believe that this depiction bears resemblance to the renowned Queen Berenzia, a notable figure in the Elder Scrolls lore. Maruk is Namira. Maruk is an Imgur, which is basically a race of apemen native of Valenwood. Maruk was an influential person in the First Era, but I can't find any information that relates to him being the Daedric prince Namira. Lysandas never died. Lysandas never died refers to a bunch of theories and speculation from the Elder Scrolls community about Lysandas ever truly dying. It's pretty clear-cut that Lysandas died before the events of the game, and theories based on this topic are nothing more than speculation. Purifying waters. Unfortunately, I was unable to find any type of information on this topic. The only thing that comes to my mind is a potential connection to the holy water item obtainable from a quest giver affiliated with a temple. However, it is crucial to note that this is purely speculation, so take that with a grain of salt. It seems that we have reached the pinnacle of our iceberg journey. If you've managed to accompany me this far, your support through subscribing would be much appreciated. I hope you guys enjoyed my take on an iceberg video, and being the Elder Scrolls fan that I am, I thought this would be a fun challenge. Until then, I'll see you guys when Elder Scrolls 6 comes out.
I was the kid. I was writing games when I was, 12, whatever. And the other kids in the block would say, I'm going to play quarterback for the Cowboys. And I'd be like, I'm going to make video games, and everyone's going to play them. Like, you dork. Go back to the chess club. Who's laughing now?